So, what does it take to become an industrial designer? What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jimmy, and I feel like it's been so long since I've talked directly to you guys. It feels good, but it does feel a little bit weird. So I did give this presentation to ITESM, which is the Institute of Technology in Monterrey, Mexico, and I pretty much described what it takes to be an industrial designer, talked a little bit about my background, showed a little bit of my work, my portfolio, and so I assume that some of them might have known who I am just from my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and some of them may not. And so for those who didn't know who I was, I did want to show some work, gain a little bit of credibility so that if they saw something that they liked and they knew what I was all about, they will maybe open their ears up and listen to what I have to say. Shout out to all of you guys who actually was there in the Zoom meeting. Of course it was a Zoom meeting because with this whole lockdown and pandemic going on, obviously I couldn't give it live, but maybe one day I can take a little trip to Mexico and actually give this presentation face-to-face live with all of you guys. But it was great having you on the call. Thank you for showing up. So I pretty much broke this presentation down into 5 major categories, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right on into it. So the very first thing is having proficiency in your technical skills. You need to learn how to do stuff. When somebody tells you to do something, you need to know how to do it. So what are some of these technical skills that industrial designers have to apply on a daily basis? Well, of course, a very obvious one is sketching. Sketching is all about converting all these initial early ideas into a visual format, which is a very simple and quick sketch. There's a couple different views that we generally sketch in. This is orthographic views. Orthographic views are straight on views, so it's either front view, side view, bottom view, top view, and so on. The next one is gonna be perspective. Perspective has a ton of rules and these guidelines that you must stick to. It's a very technical way of sketching, and so understanding how to do these things the right way is gonna be very important with your industrial design skill development. Another major one is going to be 3D modeling. 3D modeling is so important when it comes to being a modern industrial designer. 10, 15 years ago, industrial designers weren't taught 3D modeling. It wasn't as important, I guess. And so nowadays, of course, when you are learning and going to school as an industrial designer in 2020, you are going to be taught how to 3D model. Some of the programs are SolidWorks, Creo, Fusion 360, Rhino, and there's a ton of them. The kind of program you learn is gonna really depend on where you're at, what country you live in, the people that you work around. There's always gonna be common programs, and so you need to learn that one. For me, it's SolidWorks, and so I've used that program for many years now, and you just need to know what buttons to push to execute, to be proficient, and of course to be competent with what you're doing. Other things are, rendering and graphics design. So this is Keyshot and Photoshop and Illustrator, and there's just so many softwares out there for industrial designers to learn. This is not like creative skills, this is not problem solving, this is just knowing how to use these tools, manipulate them so that you can get your job done. And at the very minimum, guys, if you don't know how to do something technically, you better understand and know how to figure out the answer. Go to Google, go to YouTube, figure out how to do research in order to get what you need done. Designers, if you haven't yet, may you please take this moment out to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. It'll really help me out for the YouTube channel and of course feed the YouTube algorithm. So the second part of this video, guys, is talking about having a deep understanding of mechanical engineering. Mechanical engineers and industrial designers are two separate fields, but they work really closely together. And if you don't have a deep understanding of mechanical engineering, then a lot of the concepts that you end up proposing are going to be declined or turned down, and you're not going to feel so good about yourself. And so it's a great thing to have a deep understanding of how these parts are going to be made. So having an understanding of manufacturing processes, which is, is it going to be injection molded? Is it going to be stamped? Is it going to be CNC'd? And what materials go along with these manufacturing processes? If you have this in mind as you are designing your product, it's going to make the whole process very, very seamless and go along nicely. And if you don't, of course, like I said, the mechanical engineers are going to come back and say, we can't do this, or it's just going to cost cost way too much. And of course, we're gonna need to understand how these parts come together. Fasteners and nuts and bolts and screws and clips and all of these little things of how to really understand how parts come together. I remember when I was a little kid, I would, dig into my dad's tool chest and grab a screwdriver and just really open up a lot of my toys and consumer electronics and stuff like that. And of course, I wasn't able to put them back together, but it was a very fascinating exercise for me to do as a kid, to just look inside of a product and see how it was put together. The last thing I'm going to say about this is you got to also understand mechanical mechanisms. When you're designing a product, most likely it's not just going to be a solid part. It's probably going to have some kind of articulation points. It's going to reconfigure. And so when you want to add functionality such as a door that opens up, or a part that disconnects from each other, or a part that moves and swivels, you're going to need to understand these mechanical mechanisms, understand what they do, how they work, so that you can eventually apply them to your own concepts. And the biggest way I've learned how to do this is to really just study products that are already out there on the market. Study a fan, study a lamp, look at how they move and articulate. When you eventually are designing your own products and you need it to kind of move and do the same kind of things, you know what kind of mechanisms to apply to your product. So let's move on to the third thing of what it takes to be an industrial designer. And this is all about developing your eye for aesthetics. So engineers that we just talked about, they're really focused on how this product is going to be made. Is it going to be put through the stress test to live through the product cycle? Is it going to have the proper wall tolerances and all these little technical skills to make this product real? Industrial designers, we're all about thinking about the usability. Does this make sense for the user? Is the ease of use good? But another major section is all about designing this product so that it looks aesthetically refined and beautiful. As an industrial designer, we really need to really refine our aesthetics as far as knowing what looks good and what doesn't look good. When it comes to actual industrial design of the product, you want to start off with the major thing first. There's a lot of layers when it comes to aesthetics, which start off with the major overall thing, which is the form of the product. Form is pretty much, is this thing round or is this thing boxy, or just what is the overall general shape of the product that you are designing. Proportions have to do a lot with this as well. Once we move past form, we got to start thinking about the details of this product. Does it have undercuts? Does it have hard lines? Does it have buttons and all these little tiny things that we add on to this form? Another thing, of course, is going to be colors and materials and finishes that you select for this product. Is there going to be shiny parts to it? Is there going to be rough parts? Are some parts maybe metal and plastic? What's the overall color combination of this product? Is it all white? Is it all black? Is it a combination of black and white with a little bit of grays and a splash of color? These are things that you really need to start fine-tuning with your eye, understanding what looks good and what doesn't look good. And sometimes things are not everybody's taste. You might like it, but they won't like it, or they might like something, but you won't. But I personally think at the end of the day, it might not be my style. I might not like it, but I can tell if something was well designed or not. And this could be applied to not only the actual industrial design of your product, but also the presentation of your product. When you are proposing your ideas, you want to make sure your sketches, your renderings, your prototypes, they look sharp and on point, because we all want products to look good because it excites people and it makes people want to choose your concepts and move forward with that one. And if your renderings and your sketches don't look that good, it doesn't really excite people, even though it might be a really good idea. So it's always important to really show off your products, your skills, anything that you are trying to propose and present to somebody else. Make sure it always looks good and is on point. So the next section is going to be all about having empathy. If you don't know what empathy is, it's essentially just putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, or specifically the user's shoes, to understand what they are going through. So when we're designing our products, not only do we have to understand the creator side, the engineering side, the designer side, the development side, but we also have to understand the user's side, have a deep understanding of how this product is going to be used, kind of pinpoint pinpoint some of the pain points that they might have and try to resolve them through our designs and our creative problem solving. So if you don't have this skill, you might go ahead and design something that's incredibly beautiful and that's really well manufactured, but if it doesn't have good usability, if you didn't think about the actual use of this product, it might be pretty, it might be nice, but if it doesn't work well, it's just not going to be a good product. At the end of the day, all of these are tools for people to use, and if they can't use them to make their lives better, then it's just not going to be a good product. A part of empathy is obviously coming up with solutions and having these creative ideas to solve some of these problems that you identify. So if you're going to school now, you might hear your professor telling you to go do some user analysis, do a day in the life, and essentially what this is just following the user, understanding the things that they have to go through on a daily basis, and then as the designer, figuring out a way to design your product to improve their lifestyle from the analysis and the observations that you have come up with. So we made it to the final section, guys. This is gonna be a little bit outside of industrial design. If you don't actually plan on starting a business, being an entrepreneur straight out of college, most likely you're gonna wanna look for a job, find one, apply to it, and cross your fingers, and hopefully they hire you. You need to be reliable as an employee. The employer needs to rely on you to get the job done. So what does this mean? Well, obviously, if you have the technical skills down, you know how to do the job technically, cool. If you have a good eye for aesthetics, awesome. Know mechanical mechanisms and know how to create and manufacture products, perfect. And of course, if you have empathy, you can create products where people love to use them, then that's really all you need. So this very last one is just to do the work and be relied upon. Don't make excuses. Don't miss deadlines that you should have done. Always do what is required of you the best that you can. And another major aspect of what makes a professional designer is always to produce quality work on a consistent basis. This is a skill and something that not a lot of industrial designers really talk about, but of course I want to share this with you guys. If you can do all of these things, guys, you have what it takes to be an industrial designer. All right, guys, that is pretty much it for this video. I'm going to close it out there, and this is probably going to be the last video of 2020. 2020 has been a crazy year for everybody. I've been pretty much working at home this past year, and I've really come to like it, but at the same time, I do kind of miss seeing people at the same time. So I guess we'll see how things play out in 2021. But overall, I would say it's been a pretty good year for me. I think that lots of things have been going my way. And so I'm really seeing a bright future if I just keep doing what I'm doing and not mess anything up. I'm so glad that you guys are here with me. If you haven't yet, can you please hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button so that you will see more videos from me, and also leave a comment down below. If there's anything you'd like to ask me, any recommendations for future videos, please leave it down in the comments. I don't get many of them, so I do read all of them. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you have a great New Year's, a great Christmas, or whatever holiday that you celebrate, and I'll see you in 2021. Peace.